Hello, good evening, and welcome to Axiom Flux. This is season 4 and episode 9 on this, the 7th of January 2018. Happy New Year, everybody. And tonight's topic is money, or the creation of money, and fractional reserve banking. And we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff like this tonight. We've got hopefully a long episode tonight, and we've got with us me, Predator Jeff, and we've got our 3 wonderful guests. We've got the good old Stav, we've got PJ, and we've got with us tonight Mark Salon. And anyway, we're going to be talking about money, how it's created, the scam in the system, or the glitch in the system, as I call it, and all about, how it's created, where it comes from, how it doesn't work properly, and why it would be better if we did something with the banking system. And we're going to progress from there. So we're going to have an interesting debate tonight. And we're going to start off, I think, with we've got Stav wants to play a video for us. So
yeah, we've got a video from Stav. Good evening, Jeff, Stav, Mark, everybody who's listening. Just before we play this video, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but can we actually start off by, getting the word money and just ripping it to pieces and showing the people exactly what the word alone is before we actually go into it.
Well, it's not technically what people think of as money is technically not money. It's fiat currency. That's all it is. It's not real money. Real money was when we had gold and silver. We had a proper value-based currency based on the scarcity of something tangible, which was gold, silver, typically, in various countries.
Well, originally it was bartering. It was just straight swapping, weren't it? It was bartering, and then
originally, going back,
then we moved on to tally sticks, which were at first, sort of type of money.
Well, before bartering, we had probably nothing. We just had foraging. So we had foraging and hunting for survival, and then we had bartering, which made us be able to get the things we want a bit better. Then we had money, which made us get things a bit better again. Well, I say money. Well, we had
before we had money, we had tally sticks.
Yeah, tally sticks.
Yeah, tally sticks. Yeah. And before we had money, we had a value because people saw value in things, even though money, we didn't have money.
It was more resource based then, and I think over time, since we've had money, it's become more and more disconnected from.
But back in days when we used to barter, I mean, people looked at value in a different way because obviously we didn't have money, so we weren't valued in money in terms of money. It was valued in what, in a different way, like how we could use it, how it benefited us and things like that. Not just straight out how many numbers is it, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, there's a lot to it. It's a very complicated topic, money. There's an awful lot to the system, how it works. And most people have been sort of misled, if you like, or have obfuscated the true meaning of money and what it should be about. And what we've got now is something quite different. And we'll go into that in due course. But I believe Stav would like to kick us off with this video. Stav, are you there, mate?
Yeah. Good evening, Jeff, Mark, and PJ. Yeah, if we would video that was actually taken in the houses of, and they actually did bring it up. I think all of about 10 people bothered to show up in the chambers of Parliament, and it was about money creation in society.
I think the video you're talking about now that you mentioned that, Stav.
Well, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll leave links and I suggest people watch the whole thing. But I'll just play the first 3 or 4 minutes of it because it really sums it up what you guys have just said anyway. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen.
Okie doke, I'll leave the floor for you then, Stav, and introduce that video.
Okay. I don't know if you can see that, can you? Is it sharing?
Nothing up on the screen at the moment.
On the screen at the moment. Right,
Ah,
why is that then?
There it is.
Yeah, we've got it. I've got it.
Okay, I don't know if the volume's going to be loud enough, PJ. You might have to.
It's gone again.
Yeah.
It's gone. Picture.
No, I've got it. I've got it. You need to present yourself to everybody, Stav, before you play a video. Don't forget.
Right. Okay.
Got it now.
I'll get into the.
Wow. Picture.
Right, okay, got the pictures.
Yeah. Have you presented it to everybody? Click.
I clicked on my square, but the presenter didn't come up. But can everybody see it?
Is there now? Don't touch anything. Just play it.
Loud enough. Okay, here we go.
Not really.
A little bit louder, mate.
Perhaps Jeff's better off doing it. Jeff seems to be able to play videos much better.
Yeah, if you want me to play it, I'll play it for you if you like.
What's going on? Can you not hear it then?
No, I think we should let Jeff do it. If Jeff plays the video, we should be able to hear it and watch it much smoothly then.
Give me the link on MeWe. I'll play it for us.
Well, I'll do one better than that.
Just drop me a link. I'll pass it forward to him. I'll get it to you. A couple of minutes on this video, and then we'll return for that. So, in the meantime, let's just start off with. I think it's best. I mean, maybe you've got something else to start us off with, but the etymology of the word money and just how powerful money is, just in a word on its own.
I believe the etymology, money, is derived from the word moon, as far as I'm aware, which is being related to illusion and deception. So the moon has always been related to illusion and deception, so it's moon. So I don't know if that's right or not. That's what I've been told, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I've been told that one as well.
I'll put it on the side there, Jeff.
Oh, you've okay. I'll let me get the video up, and I'll screen share that. 1 second.
If you only want to play the first 3.5 minutes, that's enough, really.
Where did you post the link to?
If somebody sends it me, I'll pass it on, Jeff. If I bear with me, I'll send it you.
Are you all aware that Berco every day that they're in Parliament gets asked by I can't remember his name now, but who works for the Privy Council? He asks, "Are we still at war?" And every day, the answer is yes. And they're at war. The government are at war with us.
Yeah, that's right.
The government are at war with us.
Yes.
Well, that would make sense from a depopulation point of view.
Well, we are collateral, aren't we?
Yeah. Have you sent me it, PJ? Oh, you put it in. Oh, right, I see. No, it's not in there. I don't know where you're supposed to be sending me this video, but I haven't received the.
I received the chat box on the side. On the side in this Hangouts.
Oh, it's actually. Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. I was looking in social media. Right, hang on. Let me get that up. Okie dokie. Right, I'll get the video up now. And I'll screen share. Okie dokie. And here we go. Can you see that, folks?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okie dokie, here we go. Which bits did you want me to play, Stav?
Just play the first 3 minutes and stop it. That's enough. It's self-explanatory.
First 3.
And then you can put it over to me, if you like.
Okie dokie. All right, here we go.
On the record. If there are no further points of order, we come now to the main business, backbench business, and to the first of our 2 debates. That first debate being a general debate on money, creation and society. And I invite the Honourable Gentleman Member for Wickham to move the motion. Mr. Steve Baker.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House has considered the subject of money creation and society. The methods of money production in society today are profoundly corrupting in ways which would matter to everyone if they were clearly understood. The essence of this debate is who should be allowed to create money, how, and at whose risk. It's no wonder that it has attracted support from across the political spectrum, although I think looking around the chamber, the Rochester and Stroud by-election has perhaps taken its toll. But I'm grateful to honourable and right honourable friends from all political parties, including the honourable gentleman for Clacton, the honourable lady for Brighton Pavilion, the honourable gentleman for Oldham, West and Royton for their support in securing this debate. One of the most memorable quotes about money and banking is usually attributed to Henry Ford. He said, "It's well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." Well, let's hope we don't have a revolution, Mr. Speaker, because I feel sure we're all conservatives on this side. How's it done? Well, the process is so simple, the mind is repelled. Whenever a bank makes a loan, it simultaneously creates a matching deposit in the borrower's bank account, thereby creating new money. Many times I've been told that this is ridiculous, even by one employee who'd previously worked for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation of the United States. The explanation is actually taken from the Bank of England article, Money Creation in the Modern Economy. It seems to me rather hard to dismiss. Today, while the state maintains a monopoly on the creation of notes and coins and central bank reserves, that monopoly has been diluted to give us a hybrid system because private banks can create claims on money, and those claims are precisely equivalent to notes and coins in their economic function. It is a criminal offence to counterfeit banknotes or coins, but a banking licence is formal permission from the government to create equivalent money at interest. Now, there are a wide range of perspectives on whether this is legitimate. The Spanish economist Jesus Huerta de Soto explains in his book, Money, Bank Credit and Economic Cycles, that it is positively a fraud which causes the business cycle. Positive Money, a British campaign group, are campaigning for the complete nationalisation of money production. On the other hand, free banking scholars, George Selgin, Kevin Dowd, others, would argue that what should happen is that perhaps the state might define money in terms of a commodity like gold, but then banking should be conducted under the ordinary commercial law.
I think that sums up everything, doesn't it?
Does. I mean, I'll just reiterate words what he just said, which is, how is it done? The process is so simple.
Hey, guys. Can you send me that link?
Yeah, no, it's on. Yeah.
Your connection's not very good, Stav. You might want to go out, come back in. Mark, that's the full version, but Stav did do his own little edit.
Please send me that link.
Yeah, no worries. It's in chat box on here. I can send it you though.
Am I still presenting? It says I'm still presenting to everyone for some reason.
No, you're right. It's all gone. Stav needs to sort that out.
Right. Well, anyway, basically for our viewers out there, what that was basically about was they were telling us, explaining how money is actually created. When you go for a loan, say for example, you want to buy a house, you go to the bank and you say to the bank, "Hi, I'd like to borrow some money. I'd like £150,000 so I can buy this nice little 3-bedroom semi-detached house in blah blah." And they say, "Okay, sign this promissory obligation, sir, and we'll make those funds available for you. And you'll have to pay it back at interest." So you sign your little promissory obligation, and they punch it up on the screen in your bank account. When I say they punch it up on the screen and basically enter, when I say enter it into your bank account, it appears as if by magic in your bank account, I should say, because it's not actually deposited from anywhere. So it's not deposited into your bank account. It's just entered into it electronically. It's punched up on the screen. It's just numbers, electronic. 97% of all cash is electronic. It's just electronic numbers. Whereas 3% is physical fiat currency. Okay, that's your pound notes, your pound coins and your £20 notes and all that. Only 3% of it is physical currency. So most money is just totally fictional. And how do they? I mean, there's also different things that the banks do. For example, fractional reserve banking is the system that we've got in the UK, and fractional reserve banking means that they leverage the currency. So what I mean by that is you go into a bank and you deposit, say, I don't know, you go to the bank and you deposit £100, say. What that means is they then have the ability to loan out £900, 9 times the amount. So, you know, this dilutes the money supply. It's no good for the well, basically it's just that what they do is they facilitate credit. They don't actually lend you money. They just
fraud.
Well, yeah, fraud's a good word for it.
It used to be 9 times. Now it's unlimited.
Yeah, before you call it fraud, though, people need to understand how it works and that, and it's hard to explain that without using the word fraud. That's the way on. I think that's where we get the confusion, where people just can't grasp it.
Oh, we
do need to explain it, unfortunately.
There's a lot of argument about whether there's any money on reserve, or I think there would have to be some money in reserve, and I'll tell you why. Because if you went in and you wanted to draw out some cash from an ATM or something, there'd have to be some reserves there for you to draw out cash from an ATM. So there's certainly some.
Why?
Money.
Why would there have to be money there?
Well, if somebody wanted to get some money out of a cash point machine, for example, there'd have to be money in the bank, wouldn't there?
No. There's paper notes in the bank. There's no money. Never, ever is there any money.
That's what I'm saying. Fiat currency, fiat currency, not money. That's what I mean.
It's a promise. It's only a promise, isn't it, Jeff? At the end of the day,
it's a promissory note. Yeah, they're all promissory notes. And if you look on your bank note, it'll say, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of X amount of pounds in English, for example, or dollars in America, or whatever.
Yeah, I think because I've got a couple of more videos, and I'd like to get them on, Jeff, as well.
Okie doke. Yeah, go for it, Stan. Put them on now if you like, mate.
Just basically going over what Stephen Baker said. If you can't comprehend when he says the mind is simply repaired, whenever a bank a loan, it simultaneously creates a matching deposit in the borrower's bank account, thereby creating new money. If nobody can comprehend that, all what you're saying, John, Jeff, and all what Mark or PJ or myself would complicate the issue. If you can't comprehend them simple words that Stephen Baker said, then it doesn't matter. You could say it 1,000 times over and make little models and show people that they will never get it. It's such a simple thing.
It is such a very simple thing. I mean, basically,
yes.
you punch it up on the screen before you can draw it out. Yeah, they have to punch it up on the screen. So it's created.
Yeah, but it doesn't. That's right. Yeah, but we know full well they're not satisfied with that. They have to charge you interest on that thing they created out of nothing, and then the fractional reserve in infinity, like Mark said. So,
indeed,
complete and utter whatever. But anyway, there's another.
Stav, I'd just like to make one point while it's fresh in my mind. If for all the debt there is in society, and throughout the globe, I think there's like trillions of pounds worth of debt. I don't know exactly.
There is no debt.
Eh? Well,
There
yeah,
is no debt.
yeah, it could be considered fictional, of course, but the point is, if we were to pay off that money, there would be no.
With what? What would you pay it off with?
This is what give me a chance to say what I was going to say, Mark. What I was going to say was,
no, Mark's doing right. Mark's
there wouldn't be any physical currency left in existence because the amount of supposed debt is in excess of the physical money, and electronic money actually in circulation. So there you go. It wouldn't. The whole system relies on debt to actually work.
Yep.
That's the crazy thing about it.
Well, yeah, it's monetized debt, isn't it? That's how they look at it.
Sweat, isn't it? That's all it is. Sweat, just literally.
Now, I've got another video, guys, which you can take it either way you want. But I know you've got minds to understand what this guy is going to say because it's done in such a simplistic way. Are trying to sort something out, and some people say, well, it's the banks in disguise. But if you can understand this next video, which I'm sure all three of you guys can, fairly easy, it's what people are doing now, and it goes back to what Mark was saying earlier on about a people, I want to call it a renaissance or a utopian future for future generations. But there's plenty of people thinking exactly like that. They're not having this shit anymore. They are going to create banksters, fraudsters, psychopaths, whatever you want to bloody well call them, the elite, whatever. Anunnaki, I couldn't care less. But
I would never call them the elite. They're always psychopaths. They live on the...
Psychopaths, elite, yeah. Well, they could be psychopathic. They could be the elite of the psychopaths.
Well, that's just giving them an excuse.
I think that's an insult to psychopaths, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's people that wrote plenty of books about this stuff over the last 10 years. Plenty of books, and sold plenty of books. So I'll leave it there, yeah? So anyway, the next YouTube, if you want to bring that up, Jeff, the second one, can you see it, HD?
Oh, yeah.
That one on the right? Yeah. If you bring that one up,
yeah,
if you played it, because I'd like to get this all out, and then you can chat. We can chat amongst ourselves.
You should.
Whatever. Now this, hopefully, yeah. If you bring that up, let me.
We've just got to play an advert first, unfortunately.
Buying cryptocurrency on Usury.
I know. I can skip the ad. That's good.
All right, Jeff.
Should be. Can you see that?
Hang on. Stop it a minute, Jeff. Get you to present to everybody.
Oh, right. Sorry, mate. I was a bit premature there.
You to present.
Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, I got it. You boys got it?
Yeah. Where do you want me to play it from?
Beginning. Well, just when he comes on the stage. Well, I think you've got it there. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
It's all about. Yeah, it's all about blockchain. If you've heard of it before and you're thinking about it.
People that don't know what blockchain is, it's the foundation of what the cryptocurrencies work on. So.
Absolutely.
So, do you want me to play it all the way through? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Okie dokie. Here we go, folks.
Of the internet. This is what the internet looked like exactly 40 years ago. In 1977, the internet was just a couple of computers, a dozen of dots, if I may, loosely connected by some lines that can barely carry a couple of bits and bytes between them. Not that much. Today, you're watching this video on YouTube using the internet. In the most sacred part of your house, without a wire connected to the device that you're watching this video on the seat that most people should watch TED Talks on, in your toilet. Now, in order for us to go from where we are, which are these couple dots,
to where we are today, a lot had to happen. People like Bill Gates and Tim Berners-Lee had to dream about what could the world be like? How could we change the world? And here we are, 40 years after. Now, the thing about great inventions and great paradigms like the internet is you actually don't know what it is the day it was made. You kind of have hindsight 40 years after, and you look at it and you go, oh, I see what that did. It did the following thing. The question or the discussion we're going to have today is, if there was a paradigm sitting in front of us today, what can we do today to figure out what that paradigm is going to do 40 years from now, so that we can take advantage of it, so that we can be a part of what Bill Gates and others did to the internet? In order to do that, in order to get ahead, you have to ask what I like to call the big question. And the big question about any paradigm is, what is the one thing, what is the one gap that that paradigm fills for everyone? Now, I said hindsight is easy. Hindsight's 20/20, but foresight, that's where it gets difficult. Let's take a look at, if we think about some of the large inventions in our life, the printing press, for example, 1400s. The printing press filled an interesting gap. It filled what I like to call the knowledge gap. At the time, knowledge only came to the anointed. Someone special would get a clay with the name of kings on it. And that's how knowledge came from the gods. The printing press was invented and completely closed the knowledge gap. If we take a look at something like the engine, that invention, what gap did it fill? Well, it filled a power gap. At the time, we wanted to manufacture, and all we had was manpower. Slavery, colonialism. The engine helped get rid of all of that. And then our favorite invention, the internet. Starting 40 years ago, you looked at it and you go, I'm not sure what it is. Today, I like to think of it as filling the gap. The world is a lot smaller than it was. Today, you can transact just about anything. Just about any distance. We're here to talk today about the next gap that exists. There's a gap that is building in our society, and there's an invention, as you would imagine, that fills that gap. That invention is called blockchain. Now, this is an oversimplified version of a blockchain conversation. For all those blockchain experts, the 16 of us that exist in the world, save all the details for the comments. We're going to have an oversimplified conversation. We're at the ground floor of blockchain. And what I want to talk about is, what is the gap that it fills, so that we can look forward and see what the world will look like. Blockchain changes something that is very fundamental to us. It's at the core of who we are, and each of us do it hundreds of times a day. The blockchain is going to change. It's just going to change the way we trust. Not just how we trust each other, but more specifically, how we trust in business. Now you might go, wow, trust in business? I trust all the businesses I operated with today. Of course I do. I trust my government, I trust my news, I trust everyone. Being funny here, guys. Trust is actually very, very core to business. Trust in business started very early on. From cavemen all the way through the mercantile economy, to the industrial age, today in the information age. We have come to a conclusion as a species that I have to trust you in order to transact with you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, trust is the fundamental currency of commerce. Think about if we just stop trusting other companies or government. Commerce would come to a bit of a halt. Now, trust itself, very delicate. It's poignant. It's close to us. Easily breakable. And yet, somehow, we're able to trust each other and transact $100 trillion a year between the 7 billion of us on this planet. This little delicate thing called trust, somehow or the other, we're able to do it this many times per year. The fact is, we've manufactured that trust in order to transact. Somehow or the other, we manufacture trust. When I exchange my hard-earned dollars with you for a good or a service, I have to trust you, and we manufacture that trust. Let's talk a little bit about the manufacturing of that trust. I'm going to use my Slim Shady voice. Anybody here knows Eminem? You know?
Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Let the oversimplification begin.
Let's talk about how we manufacture trust today. In order to talk about trust so that you can really get a sense as to what I mean by blockchain is going to change the way we trust. Let's imagine that we're about to buy a house. Now, we have invented this thing in society called the ledger. No, not heat ledger. The ledger, like bookkeeping, entries, debits, and credits. And the ledger is the fundamental way that we go about storing information about transactions today. For this house, for example, if we needed to get a record of who owns this house and what happens to it, we would store that information in a ledger that looks like this. First, the house is built, then it's constructed, and there are some changes that go with it. It had some violations here and there, but eventually we'd be able to get a record of this house before we buy it. Anyone here ever bought a house or sold a house? How long does it take to get this information? You have to go to a title company. 30% of the titles in the United States have errors in it. The problem with the ledgers we use today, which we depend on to trust, many things, not just houses, is that someone, as easily as they can write a record on the ledger, they can delete a record on the ledger. Can you imagine buying a house and you go to the homeowner and they go, yes, of course, here's the title. I've kept all the records of the title. Please have it. Would you trust them? No, because the information can be tampered with. The ledgers that we use today to transact with, whether it's a house, a car, the rights to some piece of art, someone who owns a piece of intellectual property or a patent, are tamperable. You can tamper with them. And what makes it worse is not only are they tamperable as in you can remove a record, you could also add a record or edit a record. You can see here that chimney violation that happens to this house somehow magically is now a new chimney. I bet you'd be paying a price you don't want to pay. So we have this capability called the ledger. We use it, it's tamperable, and we could trust a little bit. But we're sort of in this state of commerce where we have to trust but verify. Anybody knows who said trust but verify? All right, good. We'll add it to the comment section as well. Okay. The truth is, today, as a civilization, when we start companies or we start transactions, we start with an automatic assumption that the counterparty cannot be trusted. When we start companies, when we start transactions today, we start with the automatic assumption the counterparty cannot be trusted. It almost feels normal to us. Kind of feels like, oh yeah, I mean, why would we not do that? It doesn't have to be that way. It's just something that we've become accustomed to. And the way we've gone about it is we establish these things called intermediaries. Fancy word for middlemen and intermediaries. These are entities that are responsible for keeping a centralized copy of the ledgers in all of commerce, and they facilitate the brokering of the relationship between those who are looking to trust and those who are looking to be trusted. Examples of intermediaries are things like banks. Department of Motor Vehicle, it's a great intermediary for identity. Mortgage, title company. Credit reporting agencies. These are all intermediaries. This is just a small example of the intermediaries that we deal with today. And the reason why we deal with them is because we simply can't trust the ledgers that we have. Now, the intermediaries don't actually get us all the way there. If you think about operating in zero trust, which commerce would come to a stalling halt, and abundant trust, the intermediaries kind of get us to a point where we can manufacture some and the rest of it comes from the gut. The fact is, commerce and the state that it is in today, we sort of exist in this trust gap. Now, I should remind you
that the oversimplification is still happening.
Let's talk a little bit about blockchain to get a sense as to what blockchain is and what it does. As you would imagine, blockchain has a ledger as well. Now, the blockchain ledger is an epic upgrade on the ledger that we have today. There's a couple of things that are very, very interesting about it. The first thing that's interesting about the blockchain ledger is every record that's written on a blockchain ledger has a unique key that goes with it. Now, you don't need to get into the details of cryptography or hash keys, etc. Just trust me when I tell you that there's a really, really awesome, unhackable key that's in every record on a blockchain ledger. The other thing that happens to blockchain is that every record is written and stamped by the trusted party that wrote that record. Aha! You can see how this is a little bit different from the crappy ledger we use today, isn't it? Here's the major invention. When the next record is written, everything from the first record, including the key and the contents of the second record, is put into that formula, and out comes a key for the second record. You can see there's some dependency. When the third record is written, the third record, same thing happens. All of the contents of record number 1, including the key, and the contents of record number 2, including the key, goes into the formula, and out comes the key for the third record. You can see how the dependency from one record to another is different from what we do today. Now, again, we're in the oversimplification zone. There's going to be a lot of comments about cryptography and hash keys. Yes, all that is important. This is the fundamental difference. This happens on and on and on and on. Essentially, technology making sure that every single record, we can see who wrote the record, we can add a key to that record, we can build dependencies between one record and another, essentially chaining all of the records. Aha, now you see where the word chain. And here's what happens. If someone that doesn't like that failed chimney inspection decides to remove that, very quickly with an algorithm, you can apply it and look at the information, recognize that it was tampered with. That is the difference between how we exist today as commerce and how we will exist tomorrow in the future. Essentially, we're in a world where we can start to take advantage of a ledger that is immutable. Meaning, yes, you can mess with it, but it's really easy to tell the ones that were tampered with as opposed to the ones that are not tampered with. Now, blockchains usually exist in what is called communities. What you find is that participants that operate in an industry will all operate on the same chain so that each participant in that industry has a copy of the information so they can write to the ledger with each other. Now, this helps the sharing, this helps the transaction throughput, etc. You could call this the real estate chain, if I may. We're still talking about that house that we're buying. Obviously, there's going to be healthcare chain, there's going to be financial services chains, there'll be all industry chains, and eventually we'll see a chain of chains. Now, if someone happens to interfere with one of those ledgers, let's say something happens, a consensus algorithm runs, looks at all the rest of ledgers and says, hey, you're the one that's out. And it gets replaced by a copy of those that still has the good information. New blocks of transactions appear. They get written on top of the collection of ledger. New blocks of transactions appear. They get written on top of it. And eventually, we get into a situation where what you're looking at is what is called a distributed immutable ledger. I want to pause and make sure we take inventory. We talked about inventions, large paradigms, trust, a trust gap, how we bridge that trust gap today with ledgers that we can tamper with. And now we're looking at a completely different ledger, one that is immutable, shared across organizations that operate on a specific state, and now distributed If you look at the left side of this chart, you see a state of commerce that uses ledgers that are tamperable, requiring intermediaries that own a centralized copy of it, that broker the relationship between those who are looking for trust and those who are looking to be trusted. And as a result, we live in this trust gap. On the right-hand side of this is a different view of commerce, a view of commerce where information can be trusted and available in real time. Now, I want you to think about this house that we were buying. Can you imagine if the information about the ownership rights of this house was written on a blockchain? How much time would that take out of the process to give the title information right? How much friction would it take out? And how much fraud would it take out? Much less the cost. This is the power of blockchain. Now, we saw that in the large paradigms that we looked at, we saw things like the printing press destroy those organizations that were only anointed with knowledge. We saw the combustion engine destroy things like colonialism, slavery. We saw the internet come in and destroy brick and mortar companies. What we're looking at today is a new invention called blockchain that changes the way we trust. And I believe trust companies are going to destroy, at a minimum, these intermediaries. We will simply trust in a different way. The human experience is going to change as fundamentally as it changed from the printing press, from the combustion engine, and from the creation of the internet.
I'll use my Slim Shady voice again. This is the official end of the simplification.
So where do we go from here? The reason why blockchain is so interesting, why did I continue to study it and participate, is that that trust gap that we talked about is actually increasing. We are transacting with more things in more ways than we ever had. If you look at this concept of sort of zero trust and abundant trust, you can see that that need to trust is actually stretching out to the right. Today, you not only transact with human beings, you transact with machines, you transact with smart devices. And all of these things, you need to start to figure out how to trust them properly. Now, blockchain changes two other things that are particularly interesting. One is in the area of identity. When I think about identity, I'm not just thinking about McLovin from Superbad. I'm not just thinking about this 24-year-old organ donor from Hawaii. I'm talking about the 12 million cases in the United States where there's identity fraud. That is the first area where the trust gap is expanding. The other area that I'm talking about is all the new devices that are coming online that we also have to trust, not just human beings. I think the last prediction that I saw was that by 2020, we will have 7 times more smart devices than we have human beings in the world. That's about 50 billion smart devices in 2020 that we will transact with, that we will have to trust. And this is what I mean by the trust gap is expanding. The other area where the trust gap is expanding is in reputation. We talk about reputation. I'm not just talking about that phantom Yelp reviewer that you see that writes a restaurant about how there was 5 shrimp in the meal as opposed to 6 that was supposed to be there. I'm not just talking about those people. I'm talking about the 250,000 rides a day that's happening between Uber and Lyft. I'm talking about the 100,000 transactions on Etsy. I'm talking about the 150,000 rooms that are rented per night on Airbnb. These are all reputational opportunities that we continue to manufacture trust with our gut, putting ourselves at risk. This is what I mean by the trust gap is expanding. To the extent that when I think about blockchain, I don't only think about blockchain replacing intermediaries, I think about blockchain creating trust companies that will replace just about every company in the world. If there's one thing that you remember from this talk, just remember that I love tangerines. Now, I love tangerines, but I happen to have an allergic reaction to the chemicals that are put in non-organic tangerines. So every time I go buy tangerines from the store, or my wife buys them for me, we have to look for this little logo that says organic, USDA certified. I don't know whether that tangerine company just got the logo off the internet by using Google search and printed it on the package or not. I have no idea whether the tangerines are organic or not. I just have to trust that they are. There's about 50 agencies in the United States that are certified to give you the permission to put the stamp on the package that you have organic tangerines. Now, I want you to just imagine the day when a tangerine company comes out and puts a QR code on the package, and I can scan that with my phone. And it opens up an app on my phone that shows me all of the transactions that happened in that tangerine farm, including all the chemicals that were applied to it. And it's running on a blockchain so that I know that I can trust it. Aha! Which tangerine would you buy? I can see it already. 20 years from now, I'll be remembered as the guy that said, aha! Which tangerine will you buy? Obviously, a tangerine company running on blockchain would cannibalize any other tangerine company that's just clean. That is the power of the distributed ledger. That is the power of having information that you know that someone did not tamper with, that you can actually trust without having to have an intermediary. The way I look at blockchain is that every company in the world today, not just the intermediaries, are at risk of having competition from a blockchain version of themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the ground floor of a new paradigm in humanity that will change the human experience called blockchain. The thing that is going to change is trust. It has been my absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Right, there you go, folks. Interesting presentation there. I don't know that I share the same enthusiasm as some people do with blockchain and that. And of course, there's an old saying, as far as a chain goes, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if there is some sort of flaw in the trust mechanism in this blockchain, then it might become apparent at some point in the future, and then it may not be as good as they're making it out to be. Time will tell, as they say.
Yeah, did you understand the video?
They're a good video. Stav, can I make a suggestion first that you stop your screen share because it affects your audio?
Did you know it was on, PJ?
No, just stop it. You're sharing your screen. And what it's doing is it's cut. That's it. You've done it.
Did you understand the video?
Yes, very interesting stuff. Yeah, I understand about blockchain, and you know, if it's all electronic and that, I can see some pros, but I can also see some cons. The problem is, as we
if you had to go to court, right, and I knew the law was on the blockchain and it was written down and all copied, and I knew that I was innocent, you will know that you were innocent, and the judge will know you were innocent. In actual fact, you wouldn't even need a judge, because everybody in the world will know you're innocent because you're operating within the rules of the blockchain that everybody agrees to. Okay. You don't need a bloody judge.
Of course, this all relies on a certain thing called the internet, though, stuff. So.
Well, listen. Yeah, but listen. If the internet blows up, you won't get no payments. You won't be able to feed yourself. You won't have no electricity. No life. You might as well chuck yourself off BTN if the internet goes down, or being living like the old days. But that's if the internet goes down. But I think it's a rather poor excuse.
Well, it's not just that stuff. I mean, you look at virtually all technologies. We don't get quite often with new technologies when they come out, we don't get to find out about the ramifications of those technologies until years later. A lot of people now believe, for example, that cell phones cause radiation that cause electricity.
Have you got one? Yeah, but Jeff, have you got one?
Have I got what?
Have you got a cell phone?
Yes, I do have a cell phone. A lot of people.
Why are you using it?
Well, you use it for the advantages that it gives you, but it doesn't mean to say that there's not a downside with it. What I'm saying is,
are they going to make a safe one?
Maybe they will make a safe one that works on a different frequency in the future. The point I'm trying to make, though, Staff, is with all these technologies, there can become a downside. I mean, let's take, for example, the internet. It's not probably just a lot of internet is linked up to things like satellites and so on and so forth. So, you know, all it takes is like a coronal discharge from the sun to hit a satellite, and that could put an awful lot of people off the internet. Maybe not a large percentage, maybe only a small percent use satellites for the internet, but that's just one example. Then you've got electromagnetic pulses and all sorts of other anomalies that could interfere with the internet and cause problems. See, there's always a downside to everything, Stav. I'm not saying there isn't advantages that come with it. I mean, I can definitely see the advantages. Like with everything, there's always pros and cons that I can see.
Absolutely. There's a risk in life. When you're born, you've got a risk that you could die at any time. You could be run over by a bus. You could walk down the road and a plane could fall out the sky and squash you. You could catch a deadly disease, although some people say it's all in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, you could. Life is